Hello, Patriots fans. How are you doing today? We're doing really well, right, Jake?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. Sorry, we can't come up with your chant, but like we can be like those Patriot guys and like fire the guns up in the air or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Just
Oh
like
yeah.
just
I
like our
forgot my
boy
musket. I forgot my musket. Didn't bring it here today.
just like our boy Stevie Johnson did in respect
Oh yeah.
with respect to all of you. But yes, I led last episode, so feel free to go first this time around.
Yeah. I mean, we're Bills fans, so Patriots aren't really our favorite team in the world, but I have to admit, the first two games last season, the Patriots looked amazing. I know the game against the Seahawks, you called me when that game was going on. I was like, dude, this last drive is gonna be insane to see what Cam pulls off here. And it came down to that very last play where I think that moment, that last play call that didn't work out well, that's kind of started the downward spiral of that season. But even the next game against the Raiders, they still look solid in that. Just I wasn't a very consistent year across the board for that Patriots team, except in the special teams department, because Bill Belichick always gets the most from his special teams. This is probably going to be one of the first teams where we're praising the special teams unit.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Cam just looked broken for a majority of the season. Like I don't know if the coaching staff there tried to change his mechanics or something, but he just doesn't look like the same quarterback, and that could definitely be due to injuries. Uh, but like everyone knows what vintage Cam Newton looks like, and he just was a far cry from that this season. Uh, the run game was very efficient this whole season. I mean, it's just evident in their Chargers game. If you watch that, just murdered them in the run game, murdered a lot of teams in the run game. Uh, with opt outs, they had a lot of guys missing on defense, but Bill Belichick still found a way to coach those guys up and get the most out of them. And that's really all you can ask, especially when you're missing so many key guys. J.C. Jackson balled, but Stephon Gilmore got the Pro Bowl nod, which just makes me shake my head because Stephon Gilmore is one of the most overrated corners in the NFL. For J.C. Jackson to get 9 picks and not get into the Pro Bowl, but Gilmore plays in 13 games and gets one, and he makes it in the Pro Bowl. It's just baffling. And yeah, Pats get the most from their special teams. I was surprised to see the lack of Gunnar Olszewski in the actual offense, seeing how explosive he is on special teams. Uh, just he had like 5 catches, I think. It was insane to look at that. I thought they would have used him a lot more, especially with the kind of receivers that they were fielding last season.
Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't call Gunnar Olszewski explosive, but yeah, no, he's effective, but he's not effective for like his athletic abilities. Effective because of like his vision. He sees the field very well. I think that's it. But you could say that that would help kind of get like find windows in zone coverage. As for the Cam Newton thing, I feel like he's been broken for like 2 or 3 years now. I feel like it was like the end of the season 3 years ago that it started to come on, and then the beginning of the season with Carolina 2 years ago just looked absolutely atrocious, and they're still kind of been figuring out that throwing issues since then. It's just like him short arming passes and stuff like that. Not putting not putting too little on the ball. He's definitely still got enough zip on it. He just
Mm.
doesn't elevate it enough. He throws the ball too low and then it hits the ground before it gets to receivers, which I think I've mentioned on here before. Um yeah, it's really nice to see a team embrace actually running with the quarterback. I mean, come on, do what works. And that's
Mm-hmm.
exactly what they do. They're not afraid to do what works. I still love the disguises and coverage packages that the defense comes up with. They're great. They do a great job forcing turnovers, especially early in the season. They still run the ball really effectively. J.C. Jackson is just always in good position, as you said. And what's really funny is the fact that they were able to go 7-8 with Newton as the starter, because I don't really care to count the game where he wasn't playing. Because geez, those backups were just absolutely atrocious. Like,
Come on, man.
uh,
Hoyer the Destroyer. Hoyer the
I mean,
Destroyer.
Cam wasn't great, but geez, they were just awful. They really had like no offensive threats though, like at all, which really
Mm-hmm.
made it more impressive that they even got to 7 wins. Really enjoy watching Cam run into the end zone. It's just fun. I think everybody enjoys that when you're not feeling the need to root against the Patriots. And for the roster talent this team had, they should have been getting blown out like way more.
Oh yeah.
But obviously the coaching saved them. And I really like the linebacker role Adrian Phillips is playing, even though says he's a strong safety. He's basically playing linebacker for them, and I really like it.
hmm Stats for them that I found interesting. Cam Newton had 21 total touchdowns. One of them was receiving touchdowns, so you just got to include that because if you can get your quarterback some catches, get them going early, anything's possible.
Mm-hmm.
J.C. Jackson had 9 picks. Rex Burkhead led the team in touchdown receptions, which is sad, especially now that he's found a new home in Houston. But
The
yikes! When I saw
quadro-headed
that,
monster of the Houston Texans running back core.
yeah, heavy backfield for them next season.
They're not going to throw the ball. Tyrod's going to be really disappointed. Okay. For Newton, I just have that 65.8% completion percentage was honestly kind of surprisingly high to me, even though that's not a crazy good number. That I was surprised that it was even that high. Jacoby Myers was the best QB statistically for the team, if you didn't know. Still rocking mostly with the hot hand running back scheme, which keeps him fresh. I like it, actually, most of the time. But there's one guy that may kind of screw that up. Jacoby Myers had 59 catches and 729 yards, which both led the team. But the fun part about that is that he didn't catch a single touchdown pass. And he threw 2, though. Threw 2 touchdowns, though, so wonderful. It's very funny that Gunnar Olszewski is good at returning kicks because he should be good at gunning, obviously. Nick Folk actually played well. That's shocking. I didn't know he could do that. And then, as for defensive stats that I took note of, you said Jackson had his 9 interceptions, but he also had 14 passes defended. And he recovered 3 fumbles. I mean, just being in the right place at the right time.
No Pro Bowl, though.
5.5 sacks and 6 tackles for loss for Chase Winovich. Adrian Phillips led the team with 109 tackles and 7 tackles for loss as a safety. Once again, that's wild to me. Jawan Bentley had 91 tackles to finish second on the team in tackles. And Adam Butler also had 6 tackles for loss.
For their free agent gains, which there's a lot of, they had a really good free agency with just the guys that they picked up, and they picked up a guy today too that I threw on my list last second. Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith just give them a dangerous tight end tandem that they haven't had since Gronk and Hernandez, and I'm excited to see what Belichick's going to do with that. Nelson Aguilar and Kendrick Bourne are some mid-tier receivers, which are immediate upgrades in the guys that they had on their roster. Just for even being mediocre, it's an upgrade. They bring Kyle Van Noy back from Miami, inject some life into that defense. Same with Matthew Judon and Jalen Mills. And then they also get Ted Karras or Karras from Miami to fill in for their center position.
Which guy was the guy they added today?
Oh, sorry, I completely forgot. Marvin Hall.
Okay.
So another mid-tier wide receiver that they bring in.
That's what I thought. It said he was on, when I was looking at that, he was on Detroit, right? Or is that some other guy named Hall? Okay, I was just confused if it was a different human being entirely, because the site I was looking at said that he was from Cincinnati.
I know he's played for the Bears and the Lions. Maybe he went to college in Cincinnati and that's why it said it. I don't know.
No, I don't know. It may actually be that there's 2 Marvin Halls. I don't know if it's the same.
It really depends on which Marvin Hall this is then.
Yeah, no, because I was like, Cincinnati? I was like, what? But yeah, no, here, I'm just gonna run through guys. Again, I know there's a few that I have here that you may not have mentioned, but like I said, it's hard to remember which ones. Raekwon McMillan, Henry Anderson, Devon Godshaw, Jalen Mills, you probably said, Matt Judon, and Trent Brown. They traded for Trent Brown, so that was a good one too. I think those are all the ones that I'm not sure whether or not you said that I thought were important.
Yeah, it was a very strong free agent class for them, and their losses, I mean, not very substantial. Probably the biggest loss of theirs being Jason McCourty, which they didn't really find a way to fill in the draft or in free agency. But I mean, it's always next. Yeah, it's always next man up with them, and they have a solid corner room as it is. But they lose Jason McCourty, Demir Bird, which I know that's going to hurt Cam. They trade Ryan Izzo to the Texans. They trade Marcus Cannon to the Texans. Dante Moncrief is gone, and Rex Burkhead goes to the Texans.
Joe Thuney.
Just a lot of Patriots heading to Houston.
Joe Thuney and Adam Butler.
Oh, yes.
The guy who had the
yes.
for a loss. He left too. Those are the other two I had.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, I mean, the free agents, like, much improved, and they're going to get their COVID guys back, and their draft class was really good from my perspective. So, I think this this team is trending very upward in the one down season they had in the past, like, 20 years.
Yeah. Gotta love it. Gotta love it as an AFC East fan. Just gotta love it.
The problem is that I'm probably gonna end up rooting for these guys because they drafted two kids that were like my favorite players at their position. So, like, when they're not playing the Bills, I'm probably gonna have a tough time not rooting for these two guys at least. So,
yeah, just might as well get into their draft now. I mean, Mac Jones, he's your number one quarterback. You adore him. I'm not as high on him, but I'm still up there. I'm not a big hater of Mac Jones. He's everything that Bill Belichick likes in a quarterback, and when I say that, I just mean he's very much like Tom Brady. Christian Barmore is a guy that I am...
Why do you say that? Hang on. We can't pass that. Why would he sign Cam Newton last season if he loves quarterbacks like Tom Brady so much? It's just the fact that he couldn't move on.
Did they win a lot of games last season? Did they win a lot of games last season? He's returning to normalcy.
Dislikes.
The Patriots are going to be just like society. We're going to return to normalcy, and so are the Patriots. They had fun with their running quarterback last season, and now they need to get an unathletic white guy back behind center. Return to normalcy.
Don't say that thing ever again. Just keep going.
Christian Barmore, again, guy that I'm not very high on. I think he's very similar to Ed Oliver, and Ed Oliver hasn't broken out that much. But as you pointed out when we talked about interior defensive linemen, you said, yeah, he's Ed Oliver if at Alabama and played against better competition and was coached better. So I understand that. I get that. And in the second round, that's a steal. Getting him in the second round is a steal.
Yeah.
Ronnie Perkins is a guy that I was high on, an edge rusher out of Oklahoma. Didn't really expect the Patriots to take a shot on him. Just Bill Belichick's kind of a no-nonsense guy. Ronnie Perkins has some off-the-field issues, but that dude just out-muscles everyone that's lined up across from him. So can't wait to see how he's used. It really stinks that there are guys that they drafted that I really liked. And speaking of guys that they drafted that we as individuals really like, Ramondre Stevenson. Dude is just a bowling ball running around, taking guys out. When we went over running backs, he was, what, 2 for you? He was very high up on your list. 2 or 1? No, 3. He was 3 because ETN and
because it was ETN and Najee ahead of him.
Yeah.
And he's very fun to watch, and honestly, like, one of the things I said at that point in time is, like, the thing that sucks is if he doesn't go to, like, Baltimore or New England, he's not going to be any fun. But he's in New England, so it's actually very good.
Yeah. Cameron Magrone was a guy that was in my top 10 for linebackers. He was number 7 for me. Dude's a great open field tackler, takes great angles, reacts well to whatever direction the ball's going in. Just a very heads-up smart player, and Bill Belichick likes those kind of guys, so can't wait to see what he does with him. Bringing in a Bledsoe back to New England, again, returning to normalcy. If you want your quarterback to succeed, you need to have a Bledsoe in the building. So they bring in Joshua Bledsoe, a safety. I don't think he's going to get hurt running like Bledsoe did, or Drew Bledsoe did, but he might hurt some guys that try to run. Dude's a very hard hitter. He strips the ball well, and he has a lot of clutch stops that I saw in his tape. Will Sherman is an offensive tackle, adding more depth to that offensive line because they lost some decent, or they don't have a lot of depth, and they lost pieces, but they did their due diligence to replace them in free agency. And then Trey Nixon, the obvious wide receiver pick here that every team has to make, but the Patriots wait for their last pick to do it. He's got good speed, kind of a different type of guy. I mean, with the draft, biting on potential here, and with the receivers that they have now, you know that they're just middle of the road receivers. Maybe you take a shot on this late round guy, you see some type of potential in him and coach him up. I don't know. He shakes a lot of guys out when he's running go routes, but that's mainly all that I saw him run was go routes.
The thing is that you really do have to like realize that you are allowed to have a number one receiver on your offense not actually play the wide receiver position. So
Mm-hmm.
having two really above
Oh,
average
their
tight
number one
ends,
receivers are their tight ends. Their number one and number two receivers are their tight
I'm
ends.
very okay with that. And then you say that Bourne and Aguilar are your number 3 and number 4 options. That's perfectly fine
Mm-hmm.
with me. Then you can even hit some of those running backs out of the backfield based off what formations you get them in. Like you said, Mac Jones is my favorite quarterback. They like in terms of what they did at the quarterback position in the draft as compared to everybody else, they did it the best because they just sat still, didn't do anything, and patiently waited. Didn't overplay it, didn't underplay it either. But I mean, they just did it perfectly. There's no one else that I feel like if they want a quarterback would have the patience. No other team would have the patience to be sitting back that far and just sit still and wait and watch other
Mm-hmm.
guys go off the board. So props to them. You're right about Christian Barmore. I like him. I think he should have went in the first round. But the thing is that you talked about Ed Oliver. I mean, yes, you mentioned. I said the competition is not a question if you go Barmore. I was impressed with how he played, and on top of that, this guy. I was not saying that this guy should go top 10 in the draft. I was saying that this guy
Mm-hmm.
should go in the 20s, and getting him in the second round is absolutely ridiculous. You say you really like Ronnie Perkins' strength. Uh, I, I don't remember checking him out before, but when I looked at him very quickly today, the only thing I really got is that he's not crazy athletic, but he feels like a Belichick guy in the fact that he's just doing his job always and he plays a very
Mm-hmm.
balanced game. So that made sense to me. Also, before I forget, I accidentally left Josh Bledsoe off my list. I'm sorry about that. I don't have anything to say
Wow.
on him right now. That was an accident, obviously. Ramondre Stevenson, ground and pound. Welcome LeGarrette Blount Jr. to the backfield. This is one of the few teams that I wanted him to go to, and I am very excited. Now, for Cameron Magrone, I'm going to bring up Ramondre Stevenson again. I can look at him and say that there's one huge flaw with his game, and that is that he basically eats the force of every running back that hits him and gets dragged. It's terrible. It's an awful habit. It's so bad. He's good at like almost everything else, but just when he tackles, yes, he's making tackles in open field, but he's getting chucked. He needs to figure out how to
Yeah.
attack.
No. Yeah.
And if Belichick wants to eliminate that part of his game, what he needs to do during training camp is the first day that they're fully padded, he needs to get the Oklahoma drill going, and he needs to put Ramondre Stevenson straight across from him, and he'll learn really quick. Even though he's going up against a fellow rookie, he'll have a welcome to the NFL moment in that moment, and maybe that'll teach him that he needs to attack a ball carrier and can't just eat it, because he's going to get crushed if that drill takes place, because he does not attack well at all. And honestly, that's something that I have to, and that's something that really like hits home with me, because like I think that was one of my issues playing in high school. I didn't think I attacked well enough. I got to the ball carrier, and then I kind of just would eat it up for a tackle, and that's not a good thing to do. Will Sherman, offensive tackle, fine to boost up offensive line. Trey Nixon, obligated wide receiver, mostly a speed game, and they have one UDFA signing as a kicker from Michigan in Quinn Nordin. So that's it.
Got to bring Nick Folk in some competition, and also that kicker that they drafted in like the fourth round last year that didn't even make the roster.
Yep.
All right, their schedule. I mean, it really, really stunk having to write all these W's for them. Just like the team, they look good. They look good, and it's tough. But
You
I'm
didn't
just
care.
gonna.
You didn't care about that last time we did a record prediction. So
Well, Kirk Cousins stinks. I also have no faith in Zimmer to really coach that team up to succeed. But
Oh wow.
the greatest coach of all time, got to have some faith in him. Week 1 home against Miami. It seems like they always get Miami week 1 at home. It's almost always a win, so I'm going to give them that win. At the Jets week 2, the Patriots are just a better team than the Jets. That's a win. New Orleans. Now, this game here, this pick came down to what team do I think is going to have it figured out at week 3? Because both these teams are going to have to take some time to figure it out. And I gave the win to the Patriots here just because they have less variables to have to juggle in this situation. So I gave them the win. And then Tampa Bay comes back home, and he hands the Patriots their first L of the season. But it's fine. They get a bounce back game because they head to Houston. Meet up with Rex Burkhead. Their leading touchdown receiver last season.
Yeah, this is the real revenge game right here.
Yeah,
you thought it was
Rex Burkhead.
You thought it was
game.
week 4. You thought there was some sort of revenge game week 4 of Belichick versus Brady. Nah, it's Rex Burkhead versus all of New England in week 5.
Not just Rex Burkhead though. Rex Burkhead, Ryan Izzo, and Marcus Cannon are all going to have to prove to Bill Belichick that was it really worth the 7th round pick. Bill, was it? They get that win against
so they
Houston
lose
at
that
Houston.
game.
Yeah, so they lose that game because everyone's got a fire in their belly. No, they win that game against Houston. Home against Dallas. I think at this point in the season they should have it figured out. They win against Dallas. They're a better team, better coach than Dallas. I don't know if Mike McCarthy's going to have a job by the end of next season if he can't, get everything together. Home against the Jets. That's a win. Just they sweep the Jets. They're a better team than the Jets. We went over this with the Chargers episode, and I keep my things consistent. I think they take an L to the Chargers here.
I love that you feel the need to say that every time. You were like, oh, I'm not.
It's my gimmick. It's my gimmick.
So stupid.
They take an L at Los Angeles. They got to travel across the country. But then next week, same time zone. Not same time zone as New England against Carolina. They get that dub there. I mean, Bill Belichick was making Sam Darnold see ghosts, and he's going to make it happen again. And then the Cleveland and the Tennessee game, they aren't back-to-back here, but when I was looking at them, I'm like, if I have them win against Cleveland, they also have to win against Tennessee, because I think Cleveland and Tennessee are two very, even teams. But if they lose, I didn't want to split them. I felt like it was either you win both of these games or you lose both of them. I don't know. But I had them losing to Cleveland here. But this could be the Cleveland game and the Tennessee game are going to be two very fun games to watch. But I have them taking the L against Cleveland. Then they have a game against Atlanta that they're going to win. Just their defense is way better than Atlanta's offense. Even if Atlanta just is such high-powered offense, their defense can still stop them. Yes, go.
We just take a moment to note that we have New England, Cleveland, week 10. We have New England, Tennessee, week 12. Those are 1 p.m. games. And then we have New England, Atlanta in the middle in a primetime slot.
Gotta love it. Gotta love it. But like I said with the Cleveland game, giving them an L there, I also gave them an L home against Tennessee. But same thing with the Cleveland game. It's going to be a very, very close game, no matter how you shake it. You could split those. I just didn't. Something in my gut told me that they're either going to win both of them or lose both of them. So I had them losing both of them. At Buffalo, I think they split it with Buffalo. They take an L at Buffalo, though. Then they go in their bye week. They have a really, really late bye week. I think this is the latest one we've seen. But they come out of it, and they play Indy at Indy. They get the win there. Play Buffalo at home. They get a win. Jacksonville at home. They get a win. And then this late season, last week of the season, last 2 weeks of the season at Miami, they just always find a way to lose it. They just always find a way to lose at Miami or lose against Miami late in the season. So I gave them an L here, splitting it with Miami. If they didn't have this game so late in the season, because it just seems like a tradition at this point for them to lose against Miami late in the season.
Okay, you gave them the win against Jacksonville, right? Though, because you just
yes, I gave them. I gave them the win against. I said they win against Buffalo at home. They win against Jacksonville at home. And
Okay.
then at Miami, they lose since it's a late season game against Miami, and they always just find a way to lose those games. Or I should rather say Miami always finds a way to win those games, giving them an 11-6 record to end the season.
Their over-under's 9.5, just so you know.
Hmm.
So, yeah. I don't know.
What do you got for me?
I got Miami week 1. I'm not confident into it yet. That could change, but geez, what I saw last season, there was not anything that excited me whatsoever, really. Even though his entire college tape is very exciting, there was not one thing I saw in the NFL that excited me. And
Hmm.
like I tried to describe to some other people about Josh Allen, is that I don't necessarily think that it's like you don't need to be dominant in your rookie year, but you need to show some flashes. And Tua just didn't show any flashes to me at all. I feel like for Belichick, Tua is a very beatable quarterback, not even thinking about the rest of the team. There is something to be said about those former Belichick coaches having his number normally, but just not confident in Tua. So that's a W there. Week 2 at New York Jets, I'd say that's a W. Week 3, you talking about like how much of a mess this is going to be because we're not going to know the teams at all. That's a toss-up game for me. I don't really know.
Hmm.
What's really lucky for this team though is that basically all their tough games fall at home, which is like
Hmm.
so lucky. It's so weird. You look at like all these games that you think could be challenging for them, and they're basically all home games, except for the Bills, obviously, because they play them twice. Um,
Hmm.
but Tampa Bay, I think that's an L. You're right. I mean, that team is good all over, and I mean they're better in like. There's no positions that you can really say for sure that New England is better than Tampa at. I think Tampa's got a pretty solid advantage there. Week 5, Houston's terrible. That's a W. Week 6 at Dallas, I'm just questioning a lot of stuff with Dallas. I don't
Hmm.
necessarily know how I feel about them. I said this is a toss-up game, but once again, all these games that I consider tough kind of fall in their home stadium. So that helps them. Maybe I should have given them a win there. Week 7 against the Jets. Once again, I think they're awful. W. Los Angeles, I think they're going to run all over Los Angeles. Like I said, I think that's a W. Carolina's roster's bad. New England's roster is significantly better. Their coach has significantly more experience. That's another easy W. Week 10, though, Cleveland's roster is insane. I think Cleveland's going to be a top 3 team in the AFC, almost no questions asked, next season. And I'd say that's a fairly easy L, even though once again, game falls at home. So lucky with this. And
Hmm.
that really could be a big deal in pushing them to make them a lot better because all the games that I think are tough, like I said, are at home for them. Week 11 at Atlanta, I think they're better than Atlanta. I think that's a W. Week 12 against Tennessee, still the home team, but I think Tennessee's slightly better. And so far, it's felt like what's his face? Vrabel has pretty much had Belichick's number, so I'm thinking that that'll hold up for the time being. Then the first tough home game they have is finally in week 13 against the Bills. I'm saying that's an L to Buffalo because I last year I was conservative with my Buffalo estimate because I was like I didn't want to over exaggerate it as a Bills fan, and I said 10-6 even though like I thought we could have even though I said my prediction's actually 10-6, but I feel like 13-3 is more realistic, but I'm saying 10-6 to account for any biases. I don't feel like I'm terribly biased, and I think I realized this year that our team's actually going to be pretty good. And I'll say it again. I think they're going to lose again when they play them 2 games later, too. Um, week 15 versus Indianapolis, though, I think that's a W. Week 16 against the Bills, I said that's an L. Week 17 against Jacksonville, I think that's a W. And week 18 against the Dolphins, once again, not feeling strongly about Tua, I say that's a W again, even though, like you said, they kind of have had that struggle in late season stuff. So that's 10-5, 10-5 wins to losses, and then 2 toss-up games. So we split those. 11-6 is not terribly strong over, considering that's a 1.5 game over. Um, yeah, but Miami, they could drop a game to Miami if Tua plays well, or somewhere else that I didn't account for. But I really like what the roster did to retool this offseason, and they have COVID players returning too. Uh, I don't know what the general public thinks this team is gonna do, but I think this team's gonna be like potentially, I don't know, with how the AFC falls because you have Baltimore too. I'd say probably like a they're probably battling for like the 5 or 6 seed, if not the 7 seed in the playoffs. I think.
Hmm.
I'm just trying to think
Yeah.
if there's anybody I'm really missing. Indianapolis could be in there. I think Tennessee's going to be better than Indianapolis, so they could be in the mix. But yeah, I pretty much feel like that's how it's going to be. And sadly, once again, this means that one of the other teams we talked about recently, that's going to be on the outside looking in probably. Fairly close though, is potentially the LA Chargers, just
Hmm.
with like sitting right at that 8 spot or something like that.
Yeah. It's gonna be the AFC or AFC East might actually be competitive now for the first time in forever.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I don't really hope so because I want the Bills to win every game,
Yeah, I
but
want the Bills to win every single game by a blowout, but I mean,
it's what it's like to be
the
a
rest
fan
of
of
the
a team.
games,
I don't really want the game. It's hilarious. Every game I watch, I want it to be close until my team's involved. Then I want it to be a blowout.
just blow them out. Just blow them out, please.
See, it's not too bad to watch a Bills blowout though, because if you watch that Week 17 Miami game, I mean, there's 5 minutes left and we're going deep up 30. I mean, it's great.
Yeah, our coaching staff knows how to blow a team out.
Yes, yes, this is very true. All right. Anything else on New England?
No, I think we can cut it here.